is going on, everybody? Woodward Bet Nation. A first here for us here today. A couple of Chris's hanging out, but you know it's better as Beer and Beastie. First time ever. A two-man booth here. We had to give the old man a night off, Beastie. You know, this guy's been grinding it out. Right, you know, maybe he's raking some leaves. Maybe he had a few too many beers. Maybe you know, he needs a little rest in said leaves. But Beer and Beastie here to break down everything going on in the Thursday sports calendar schedule. Beastie, my man, how we doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. I love this. B&B, whatever you want to do it. Beer and Beastie, B&B. Maybe we could market that in the future if we want to cut Scott out of the equation. But I know you're friends with him. I like him. So we would never want to do that. Scott, your position here at Woodward Bets is safe and sound. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the double. We got to watch out. We don't want to trend on the Ball brothers. You know, they got the three Bs going on. So, you know, the Ball dad might come after us. But we are here to break down Thursday Night Football on the docket tonight. Beastie's got some thoughts on the hockey slate tonight, so I'm going to turn that over to him when we get there. Three-gamer in the NBA, so we'll touch on that as well. And we will always end with our best bets here. So kind of a short show tonight, but Beastie, just kind of general thoughts here. You know, you and I haven't been able to talk much about the Detroit landscape here. The Lions getting their first win. Jared Goff, Player of the Week. Michigan moving on to the Final Four. Hutchinson, Heisman finalist. So just kind of general thoughts of everything going on. The Red Wings look like they're playing well. The rebuild in full motion. So thoughts on anything you want to wrap on there here while we got some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with I'm 37 years old. So my childhood and my adult life, I've always been able to count on at least one Michigan kind of team, and it was always the Michigan Wolverines. When I was a kid, Lloyd Carr, they were always playing in a Rose Bowl, always contending for a Big Ten title, and that's kind of been, wiped off the map here for the last few seasons. So to be honest with you, never can count on the Lions. The Wings, we know their success, so it's fantastic to see the Wings playing so good. I see all the graphics that Woodward Sports is doing. They're ahead of the curve. If you look at Lucas Raymond, Mo Sider, you can see that I believe Lucas Raymond is about a year ahead of what Henrik Zetterberg was doing in his rookie year and things like that. And Mo Sider, he's a year or two ahead of Nicholas Lindstrom when Lindstrom was a rookie. So in Stevie Y we trust, that's not going away. We saw what he's built in Tampa Bay, and they're still living off the fruits of Stevie Y's labor here, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. But I want to mention briefly the Detroit Lions. It was such a great move to see them win on the last play of the game. And if you look back at what the Lions have done so far this season, I honestly, off the top of my head, Beer, I don't think they've lost by double digits at all this season. It's all been 6, 8, last-second field goals. So again, I'm not too much. I don't buy into those, moral victories here. But the Lions they're playing hard. They're playing tough. They're just not winning games, which will come. And right now, it's like, correct me if I'm wrong here, it's like playing with the house's money. They don't win anyway. So, building something here from the ground up with Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, I'm all for it. Jared Goff, I believe, Woodward had the graphic. He's a winner off the field. I think we can all agree on that. His girlfriend was at the Sports Illustrated swimsuit, showing or whatever on the beach. So Jared Goff is doing well. He's kind of living the life right now. Player of the Week. He's got his Sports Illustrated swimsuit girlfriend. So again, I think I've mentioned this before, not only here with you or Scott, but on other broadcasts. You just got to ride the wave of professional sports. Every city has this where they get really high highs, really low lows. And here in Detroit, we can always count on at least one team playing well for an extended stretch of time. And we're just falling on dark times. Nobody's doing anything, but I firmly believe the Tigers get it together this season too, and we start to see, something pop there. So I'm excited for the future of Detroit sports. I'm not going anywhere, born and bred and raised here. So I love the idea of what we're building to, not only at Woodward Sports and what you guys are doing, but also the Detroit sports landscape here.
Us guys, you're a big part of this as well. But it's very rare to see, a whole city's teams all rebuilding at the same time. You mentioned, the teams were all very good back in the, not too long ago. All of these teams outside of the Lions, of course, were contending for championships. And I think we're going to get back to that. They're all doing it the right way. The Pistons, the record's not there, but we see Cade Cunningham, looks like the real deal. Jeremy Grant was an addition. They're going to add some more pieces through free agency and the draft. The Lions, like you mentioned, yeah, they're not winning games, but we talk about it all the time. They have been competitive in a lot of games against some very, very good teams, and they are covering the spread, which is what we love to cover here on Woodward Bets. So they've been very productive if you're betting on them. The Red Wings, you know better than me, but they are playing some great hockey right now, led by Lucas Raymond. Scott mentioned a bet he put in the other day, a nice parlay of Lucas Raymond, Cade Cunningham, both winning Rookie of the Year. So I think that's a nice fun sweat if you're into futures, things like that. But the future's certainly bright. Even Michigan, went through their lulls. Michigan State has had their down times, and they're starting to peak as well. So certainly exciting times for Michigan sports fans. As you know, I'm a cheesehead. I'm a Badger, but being here in the local area, I don't have ill will towards any of these teams and love to see them doing well. So let's get into tonight's game, Beastie. We got Minnesota and Pittsburgh on the docket here tonight. Looks like Minnesota minus 3.5 for the most part. There are some threes out there in the betting market. We got a total sitting at 44.5. So overall thoughts on this game tonight. We saw Pittsburgh coming off a big win against Baltimore. We see Minnesota obviously coming off that loss against the Lions. So how do you see this one playing out here tonight? We'll get into some DFS, some captain's thoughts, but just kind of the 10,000-foot view of this game. How are you looking at it here tonight?
This one's going to be very interesting. And I know whenever we broadcast, when I'm here, when you and Scott are together, every single game slate looks to be fantastic because let's say we fast forward to June or July, we're going to be wishing for a Thursday night football game, regardless of what two teams are playing here. But, when we hone in on Pittsburgh at Minnesota, I think this is going to be a very closely contested game. I think it's going to come down to the last 2 minutes here, the final minute, final 30 seconds. I believe Pittsburgh will be driving, right, and looking, all they need is a field goal to tie it up, and I don't think it comes to fruition. I have Minnesota winning. I can wait till the end of the broadcast here when we give our best bets and everything here, but I think it's about a 27-24 kind of final here. Big Ben, I mean, he's a plant. He's got roots in the back of the field here. Nothing going on there, but you look at Kirk Cousins. You can't put him down. You can't throw shade. Guys throwing touchdown passes in comparison to little to no interceptions here. So to me, obviously, the big question of the day, we've seen it on social media for about a week now, to Dalvin Cook or not to Dalvin Cook. That's the move here in seasonal formats and in DFS formats. And again, I'll tell you and anybody that's watching this right now, if Dalvin Cook is active today, he's going to be in my seasonal rosters. If Dalvin Cook is active, I'm going to have a piece of that pie in DFS formats. What can you live with? That's the question. If you bench Dalvin Cook and he goes off 110 yards and a touchdown, you'd probably feel really sick. But if you put him on the bench or you put him in the starting roster and he doesn't do well, I'm going to go down with the Dalvin Cook ship any way you slice it tonight.
Yeah, it's a tough call. A lot of people's fantasy playoffs may be starting this week. If you're in some of those bigger extended leagues, DFS, it's a pretty price to pay for Dalvin Cook. So certainly going to be a debate. He is questionable, supposed to warm up before the game. So I'm thinking we'll get that news, obviously, here shortly. But it's definitely risky. But if he's in there, I'm with you. I mean, I don't think they'd risk the future of this guy. I know that every team in the NFC outside of the Lions are very much alive for the playoffs, but I don't think they'd risk him missing the rest of the season if he wasn't truly ready to go. So we're in agreement there. If he's out there, he's got to be in your lineups. You roll. I hate the player studs that you'll hear a lot of people say, but I think you certainly go that route. And maybe Madison chips away a little bit at some of his workload, but he'll still be the main guy there against this Pittsburgh defense, which is not as elite as we've seen in years past. So let's dive in to some of the DFS plays tonight. You talked Dalvin Cook. We got some other big names, obviously, on the slate. Najee Harris on the other side. Justin Jefferson, even in a loss coming off a big game. KJ Osborne becomes a very interesting play here tonight without Adam Thielen. So who are you looking at DFS? Any value plays, captain plays, quick thoughts in DFS for Thursday Night Football?
In all honesty, I believe Deontay Johnson and Justin Jefferson will probably be the two highest owned players here. I have Deontay at like 12 targets, 8-9 receptions. And when you look at Justin Jefferson, same thing, 10-11 targets, 7-8 receptions here. I think there's a way for us here with KJ Osborne in an MVP spot to maybe make some noise in like multi-entry GPPs. You know those as well as I do, Beer. 150 max entry. There's 25,000 people in there. And again, KJ Osborne is going to be, very highly owned, but I think it'll be okay here where if we put Osborne in the MVP or the captain spot, it's going to be okay. I have Osborne around 6 or 7 targets, 5, maybe 6 receptions, 60 yards. And the kicker here is, will he find the end zone? Does Justin Jefferson score twice, or does he give one of those touchdowns to KJ Osborne here? Keep an eye on Ray McLeod too. We've seen a couple games in a row now where Ray McLeod has come out of nowhere. I remember, I believe it was in week 11. I know we're rewinding the tape here, but Ray had like 8 or 9 targets. He caught all these passes, and everybody was looking around, scratching their heads. Where did Ray come from? So again, I think in a case in point here, Thursday Night Football, only so many options we can go. Ray McLeod, $6,500 on FanDuel, only $3,200 on DraftKings. Personally, you're looking at 4, maybe 5 targets, 3 receptions, 35 to 40 yards, and at his price tag, especially on DK, it's a PPR scoring here. Ray McLeod gives you a little bit of salary relief, and you can plug in where you want to go here. But to me, single game slates, I ride this wave every time. I love the idea of stacking up both tight ends from opposite teams. Pat Freiermuth, Tyler Conklin. If you look at, the fact that Adam Thielen is out, does Tyler Conklin kind of get bumped up a little bit in the pecking order? This roster, it's always been Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. But without Thielen out, do you think Tyler Conklin gets a bump up over KJ Osborne, let's say, in the pecking order here? Personally, I think he does. Conklin, $8,500 on FanDuel, only $6,200 on DraftKings, 5-6 targets, 4 or 5 receptions, 40, 50 yards. If he finds the end zone, it's all gravy. Also, briefly, I know we got a split here in about 15 or 20 minutes. I do think there's a way here in multi-entry GPPs, we could fade both quarterbacks and get away with it, Beer.
Yeah, I don't hate that. A lot of people are going to jam these quarterbacks in. These running backs will be popular. I love the tight end call. A lot of people, when they're not forced to play tight ends, they don't go that route. So there's always an edge in these one-game contests going there. And I agree. I think Conklin has certainly shown us he has upside. Freiermuth on the other side has had some big games. Osborne, the guy that's going to be the headliner here. I don't even hate throwing Dede Westbrook into some lineups for the Vikings, stepping into that number 3, a wide receiver role. So we know the Vikings tend to keep it fairly limited as far as the target tree goes, but Dede Westbrook, one of those guys that hasn't done much of anything. That's the beauty of it. Nobody's going to want to play him, and all it takes is one in these single-game showdowns. So I echo a lot of your thoughts there. Ray McLeod, another very deep play. I think people are forgetting the ceiling that a guy like Chase Claypool can bring to the table, so I don't mind taking some shots on him either as a touchdown scorer, first touchdown scorer, things like that. Seeing plus 1,200 on him as a first touchdown scorer. So I don't mind that bet here either. So we'll come back to the NFL, see what makes our best bets here at the end of the show. Beastie, I know you're a hockey guy, so I want to turn it over to you. I'm not going to pretend to know hockey at all. I grew up in Milwaukee, and we didn't have a team. We had an IHL team, the Milwaukee Admirals. I don't even know if they're still functional or not. So just never really followed it as closely. But let's turn it over to you. Give the people some thoughts here on hockey. If you want to cover some plays for the night, some bets, whatever you want to do. Let's talk some hockey real quick here on the show.
Sure. Yeah. Hockey's my go-to. It's probably my favorite and actually my best DFS sport here. And when you look at what's going on tonight, 10 games, that's awesome. And we're probably going to get like a late game kind of slate. It's going to be broken down into 3 separate games, but all the attention is going to be on the Boston Bruins at the Edmonton Oilers. 2 just juggernauts here. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl going against Patrick Bergeron and Brad Marchand, David Pasternak, aka Pasta. But I don't really want to wave that flag here because I'm just predisposed from thinking outside the box or going in another direction, zigging while others zag here. I do want to stop at the St. Louis Blues here. I believe, let me find it in my notes here. Yeah, the Detroit Red Wings are in St. Louis tonight. And, any night that the Wings play, as a Detroit guy, you kind of favor that. But here, I love the St. Louis's first line. Ryan O'Reilly, Jordan Kyrou, and Brandon Saad of Chicago Blackhawks fame. Ryan O'Reilly, first line, first power play unit. Jordan Kyrou, first line, first power play unit. And Brandon Saad, first line, second power play unit. So from this first line, you get exposure to everything in this game here. And this over-under right now is sitting at 6 points, which is kind of the benchmark for a hockey game. Rarely have I ever seen 6.5 or 7 goals in a game here. So give me St. Louis 1. And I also love the Montreal Canadiens. I'm just a sucker for original 6 teams here, Beer, being from Detroit. But Montreal's first line, Nick Suzuki, he's been on a heater. He centers their first line. He centers the second power play unit. And you pair him with Mike Hoffman and Jonathan Drouin. All 3 of these guys, first line, and Suzuki centers the second power play unit. As I said, Suzuki, Drouin, and Hoffman, they've been on a heater. I've stacked them about 3 nights in a row now, or the 3 nights that they played, and you can count on at least a goal and an assist from this line. And again, they see heavy power play minutes going against the Chicago Blackhawks, who they're not as disciplined as you'd like to think here. So I think the Montreal Canadiens get a little bit of action here on the first power play unit. And again, in DFS formats and cash games, how can you not want to stack the Boston Edmonton game here? If I was going to go any way, it would be the Edmonton Oilers second line. Not fading Connor in the first line, but look, Leon Draisaitl, he's about $300 cheaper than Connor McDavid, and you're looking at almost the same output, if not more, than Connor McDavid here. So Leon Draisaitl, second line, first power play unit, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Kyler Yamamoto, all 3 dudes on the second line, and Leon and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins play on the first power play unit. So you see my MO here. You play the second line, and you get a little bit of exposure to the first power play unit with Connor McDavid. So, Bear, to tie this up in a bow, St. Louis 1, Edmonton 2, and Montreal 1. And I might have a little razzle-dazzle here at the end of the broadcast in terms of a favorite over-under on the slate tonight.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So I've played a little bit of hockey. Usually when NBA goes on break, there's nothing to play, so I dip my toe in, play a little hockey. I know how important it is to stack those lines together, and you mentioned a lot of good ones here tonight. So hopefully the people give it a shot. Hockey, an underappreciated sport. I can certainly say that, not only for myself, but a lot of people out there. So appreciate the knowledge there on some hockey. And again, we'll see if there's a best bet here coming up at the end of the show. NBA for tonight. Beastie, are you an NBA guy, or you just stick with the hockey?
You know what, Bear, not to drag the show down, but everything I learned now in terms of contest entry and stuff, I learned playing NBA DFS about 3 or 4 years ago, but I have no interest in basketball, so I just used my efforts there, and I spun it to MLB and NHL. So as it stands now, no, not a basketball guy.
All right, no worries. So I'll take over here for the NBA portion. Only 3 games on the docket tonight, so not a ton to talk about. Even injuries, no major injuries tonight outside of guys we already know are out. John Morant, Jamal Murray, Ben Simmons, Michael Porter. Outs for tonight that really affect things. Keldon Johnson for the Spurs is going to be held out, so could be some more minutes to go around for Bates Diop there for San Antonio. Brandon Clark also going to be out for Memphis here tonight. So Xavier Tillman, a familiar name, may get some more run there. But kind of a dud of a slate here tonight, to be honest. So as far as DFS goes, we know John Morant's out. This team is on a back-to-back, but you can always go 2 guys like Desmond Bane, who's been fantastic, scoring the ball for that team. Dylan Brooks as well. Here against the Los Angeles Lakers tonight. That should be a fun game. A close game, pretty high total in that one. High end, you got the same debate we had last night, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid. Embiid, much tougher matchup here with the Utah Jazz. Ownership probably about even on those 2 guys. Some more value plays for you here. Tyus Jones, another Memphis guy, pretty cheap across the industry. That's pretty much, there's not a ton of value. So I think the way to go tonight, I know there's some studs on the slate here. We mentioned Jokic, Embiid, LeBron, Anthony Davis. Donovan Mitchell. I think the fair and balanced lineup with guys like Bane, Jakob Poeltl of San Antonio, Jaren Jackson of Memphis, Brooks, like I mentioned. I think that may be the way to go here tonight rather than trying to grab one of these cheap plays. We normally love the stars and scrubs approach in NBA DFS, but I think a fair and balanced lineup here tonight where you're kind of getting a bunch of guys in the mid-range, not necessarily rostering those studs, usually gets you different from the crowd. But I think that's the right way to go here on tonight's slate. So that's a quick look at NBA. Again, make sure you're paying attention here. Slate's going to lock up here soon, but the news is always hot and heavy in the NBA. But a three-gamer shouldn't be as crazy as what we see. Tomorrow, we will be talking a lot more NBA, big slate of games on tomorrow's show, obviously. So, Beastie, let's get into some best bets here. A quick show, not much to talk about here on Thursday. A few housekeeping notes before we do that. You see on the bottom, follow us on Twitter, first of all, at Woodward Bets. We're going to be taking your sit-start questions on tomorrow's show. So anything you guys are wondering, season-long, DFS, betting-wise, let us help you out with those. Send us your questions at Woodward Bets on Twitter. And we'll knock out 5 of those. We'll also be bringing back the Beers with Beer segment. We're going to have Scott back tomorrow. Hopefully he's recovered. But trying out some beers, trying to expand his horizons. So if you have any thoughts on beers, breweries you want to see spotlighted in that segment, we're going to do that every single Friday. Please feel free to reach out to myself at Beer Makers Fan or again at Woodward Bets. And make sure you are also following the network at Woodward Sports. If you're watching us on Twitch, there's Scott live and in action right now. So we'll upgrade that Rainier that he's drinking there and get him something a little bit better. But if you're on Twitch watching the show, we appreciate you. Welcome. And if you're on YouTube, of course, a thumbs up button and subscribe. So I think I knocked out all the housekeeping. So let's get to it. Our favorite portion of the show, Beastie. I always let Scott go first. So I'm going to let you lead off here. Best bets for Thursday night. Who we locking in? Give the people some winners.
Sure, I got 3 of them, 2 for hockey, and let's just get right into it. Carolina at Calgary. The over-under is at about 5.5 goals here. I think they both smash. Sebastian Aho centers that first line for Carolina against Johnny Hockey, a.k.a. Johnny Godot, for the Calgary Flames here. Give me the over 5.5 goals. And then I don't know how I missed it. The Tampa Bay Lightning go to Toronto to take on Austin Matthews. I could see a case here where Matthews scores twice. Steven Stamkos scores twice. So give me the over 5.5 goals in that one. And then tonight, the big one tonight, Pittsburgh at Minnesota. I believe this line, the over-under, it was at 42.5, got bumped up to 43.5, and as it stands right now at this moment in time, it's at 44.5 points. Look at this. Total has gone over in 4 of Minnesota's last 5 games. Minnesota, I believe they're 6-13 against the spread their last 19, so that tells me one thing. Over's going. Minnesota, not on the money line here, but I'd prefer the over 44.5 points in this one, Bear.
All right, love it. I'm going to give you 2 in the NBA and 1 in the NFL. Going to start with the late night game here. I like the Spurs here tonight against the Denver Nuggets. Now, this one you're going to look at on paper. The Nuggets the better record. Why are they the underdog here? The Spurs been struggling. I think Denver on a back-to-back here, been playing a lot recently. I think you're going to start to see that fatigue set in here tonight. So I'm going to back the Spurs at home -2.5. I mentioned a lot about that Memphis and Lakers game. The Grizzlies missing some firepower. The Lakers are one of the oldest teams ever assembled here. So add all that together. I'm going to go under on this total here tonight. Looks like 223.5 at most places. So 2 NBA bets for you there. And then to the NFL. I like your over bet, but I'm going to back the Vikings here. I think you're going to see some recency bias here. Everybody excited about Pittsburgh again. They beat Baltimore. They're back. Big Ben is terrible. So I think you're going to see that play out here. Minnesota getting Dalvin Cook back potentially here tonight. People looking at them. They just lost to the Lions. I have to bet on Pittsburgh. I always try to see what is the public going to do, and we're seeing that support with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I am going to back the Minnesota Vikings. Even at 3.5 is going to push people towards Pittsburgh. I think Minnesota wins this one. Probably a similar game to what you laid out earlier. Maybe a 4-point game. Maybe they win by a touchdown, but I think Minnesota gets it done here at home. So again, San Antonio -2.5, under 223 in the Memphis and San Antonio game. And give me the Minnesota Vikings, -3.5 here on Thursday Night Football. So, Beastie, appreciate you joining me, my man. A short, quick show. We'll have to do this again when we have more to talk about here, but wanted to get the people the information here for tonight, the best bets here for tonight. So final thoughts for the people. What do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. All the best to you and Scott. We're here. If you ever need anything, Tom Azaway, Ryan Armani, tell them boys I said hello and enjoy it. I appreciate this and time to settle in and get ready for Thursday Night Football, Chris.
Absolutely. Can't wait for this game to kick off here shortly. So excited for that and excited to have you guys aboard here with us at Woodward Bets. So again, follow us on Twitter at Woodward Bets. Follow the network at Woodward Sports. And again, we'll be back tomorrow talking more NFL, NBA as well. We'll update the injury report in the NFL to start taking a closer look to Sunday. If you missed our Wednesday show, we break down the entire NFL card with our initial thoughts. You can always go back and look at that. And of course, Beers with Beer. We'll be sipping on something, see if Scott enjoys it or not, get a review from him. So excited to spotlight more Michigan beers, more Michigan breweries every single Friday. So that will wrap us up for tonight's show. Thank you so much for joining us. For Beastie, for our boy Spencer behind the glass, I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck with your bets tonight, and we'll catch you tomorrow.